So I stopped drinking 6 months ago on my 21st birthday, and I did so for a handful of reasons. And if you want an answer to the question, should you stop drinking alcohol? The answer is yes. In the 6 months since I stopped drinking, I've not wanted alcohol once, I've not needed it once, I've not felt the urge to have a drink once. And I just think that it's only been beneficial to my life since I stopped drinking. I found that my friendships have got less but stronger. So certain friends that I'd only see on a night out, I've stopped hanging out with as much because the connection just isn't there. But the friends that I am still friends with, our relationships have got stronger. I found that I have much more money now because, quite frankly, the amount I was spending on alcohol was a joke, and nights out in general. I've found I'm much more at peace with myself now, because not only have I stopped going into a social situation I didn't enjoy, like I don't enjoy clubs or bars particularly, so I'd have to have alcohol to go there. I also don't really do anything embarrassing like anymore, aside from make these videos, but no, I don't really do anything that I would be ashamed of the next morning. And just to paint a picture of the trigger for why I stopped drinking, I'd come off the back of last summer 2 balls. So at university you have like an end of year ball, like a formal. You get dressed up in a suit, you drink alcohol, you go out. Both of the balls that I went to, I got completely just smashed. I spent obscene amounts of money. I had arguments with the people close to me. I did embarrassing things. And quite frankly, it just was not a great experience. It ruined what could have been a great time. Then going into summer, I was on holiday with my friends in Malta, and one night, again, we just all smashed. We were all drunk. And I was like down like quite tremendously financially. I was like, this is the sad thing, right? You go to these clubs, you probably don't have that much money, and you're just like spending your last like 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds. You're like, oh, do I have enough to go get a double? Like, it's just stupid. And that's exactly what I was doing in Malta. I was like, oh, let me transfer money from this account so I could get it on my Apple Pay. And my friend pulled me aside and he was like, Owen, what are you doing? Like, and he was drunk as well at this point. So I was just like, Owen, he was just, Owen, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you've had too much, you need to stop. And I listened to him. After quite a brief argument, I did listen to him. And I decided at that point that I was gonna stop when I turned 21. And it needed to be a thing where it wasn't like a false promise to myself, right? Like you say, oh, I'm gonna stop this at the start of the new year, or next year will be different, or when I turn 20, I'll stop doing this. But I needed to make sure I was gonna follow through with my promise. So I basically stopped drinking there and then, and that was in June. Like, I barely drank over the summer, but when it turned August and I turned 21, like, I've not touched it since. And you do need you do need a handful of reasons, because one reason alone probably isn't going to keep you away. There's been several stints through my life where I've been like to my friends, yeah, I'm not drinking anymore, I'm not drinking for a while, but now it is for good. And I wish I'd done it sooner, because it would have saved me a lot of trouble financially, socially, mentally, physically, because genuinely alcohol does have just such a draining, horrible effect on pretty much every aspect of your life. So what stopped me from quitting sooner than I did? Like, 21 is relatively young, but I would advise stopping even sooner. Like, genuinely, just, it's terrible. It's such a terrible thing for you to entertain and for you to base your social interactions off of. Alcohol is just horrendous. That is my view anyway. So the first thing, the main thing, was the social pressure. I'm at university, my friends all drink, and needing to fit in with them was something that stopped me for the longest time. how did I get over that? I think, again, you just have to have a handful of whys as to why you actually want to stop. But since I have stopped drinking, I have found that I have stopped hanging out with these friends as much, because what their idea of fun is to go out to the bar, to the club, to get drunk, and like most people do, by the way, that is normal. And I obviously don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't find it fun. I think that the way I am on alcohol is just horrendous and terrible, and it makes me feel terrible. So I have stopped hanging out with them as much. That is something that ultimately will happen if you stop drinking alcohol. Those friends that you drink with, that you go out with, you are going to find yourself distancing from them, because you're not going to be as fun. And here's what I carried on going out with them even though I didn't drink for the first few weeks, but I just found it so pointless. Like, when you're in the club, right, and everybody's just off their face, it really is something to witness. If you've ever been to a club sober, then you'll know what I talk about. But it really is something to behold, watching everybody just interact whilst you're stood there sober, like actually trying to enjoy yourself. You're dancing, you're talking to people. It just really is quite something. So, and you'll try to go out with them, but you'll realize it's kind of pointless, and your friendships with them will weaken over time, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look on it. But on the flip side, your friendships with your close friends, like those ones that you can have a deep conversation with, that you can talk to about anything, they will strengthen because you'll put more time into those friendships. So actually, it's a better payoff, I'd argue. So that was the first thing, like needing to fit in with my social group. The second thing was being afraid of these social situations that I was in. So at university, there's a culture where you need to be social. You need to go out and speak to people when you're on a night out. If you're single, you need to talk to girls on a night out, obviously. And I was a bit afraid of being able to do that sober without having alcohol, because how I am sober is much more introverted, much more shy. I stumble over my words, as you can tell if you made it this far into the video. When I'm drunk, when I'm a little bit tipsy, your neocortex shuts down a little bit, so you're more social. You're able to interact with people because you don't have that barrier, and it is like a physiological change that happens when you drink alcohol. You're able to socialize easier, you could speak to more people, and I was afraid of losing that. I was afraid of losing the ability to speak to people when all my friends would be going off and speaking to new people, and I would just be left there feeling like socially anxious. That was a big thing for me. Then I realized, if I need alcohol to be able to speak to people, then clearly that is the problem itself. Like, I need to just develop my charisma, my social ability. I need to stop being socially inept and relying on a drug to get me through. The second thing about being in the social situation is, I need alcohol to enjoy the club. I need alcohol to enjoy the bar, the place where we're going. And then I realized, if you need alcohol, if you need something to alter your brain state to enjoy it, then you just shouldn't be there. If you really need something to alter your state of mind to enjoy it, then does that not just tell you that it's not enjoyable? And what are you doing? Wasting your time, effort, and energy and money there. So that's one thing I realized. I realized that you're gonna lose those friends that drink, or their friendships are gonna get weaker, and you're gonna stop hanging out in places that you don't actually enjoy, and your social skills and your ability to speak to people is going to improve because you don't have that crutch. You don't have alcohol as a crutch to rely on. The third thing, which is kind of strange, is my parents, actually. It's a bit weird for me to almost like come out as a non-drinker to them, because obviously I'm just from a normal family. My parents both drink alcohol. I quite often share a beer with my dad in the evening. It was quite a nice little ritual. And sometimes my mum on the weekend would pour me like a glass of Baileys and we drink together, and I was like a bit scared to take that away from them, to be honest. I didn't want to be like, I don't drink anymore. I don't want to be like like that, like because I already had like a bout of vegetarianism that lasted about 3 months, and I didn't want them to think I was just like trying some new phase or something. So I was a bit afraid to tell them. But obviously, they're your parents, they love you unconditionally, they're going to accept whatever you want, and it really hasn't impacted me at all, and it was stupid to be worried about that, to be honest. If that is a reason for you, like you're scared about what your parents are going to think, which it probably isn't, to be honest, but if it is, your parents love you unconditionally. They are the only people who do, so don't worry about doing something positive, like stopping drinking and telling them about it. The fourth thing is considering drinking in moderation. So not completely cutting it out, but drinking less. And believe me, I tried this. This was constantly my mindset. I'll drink in moderation. I'll only have one or two. But I don't know what it is like for me, but I'm very impulsive. I'm very much like all or nothing. And that goes for work, like thankfully, but also with the negative things. So I will sit there and play FIFA for like 6 hours straight. Or if I'm drinking, I will drink until I literally cannot be awake anymore. And clearly that is some sort of psychological issue that needs to be addressed, obviously. But drinking in moderation was just cope for me, because I kept telling myself that yes, I'd be able to do so. I'd be able to drink in moderation. Just have a little bit, just to take the edge off. Again, to take the edge off is just nonsense. It really is nonsense. But it doesn't work, at least for me. And if you're like me, and chances are if you've got this far into the video, you probably are, because everybody who isn't has clicked off. If you're like me and you do things 100%, or you're up and down, or all or nothing, you're very intense or impulsive, like maybe you've not realized it, but you are. Not only being able to drink in moderation is not something that we are capable of, is my belief. And that is just, unfortunately, the way we've been hardwired. But hopefully by now you can see that even the fact that you want to drink in moderation, why do you want to drink in moderation? Oh, to take the edge off, to make it easier for me to enjoy the social setting that I'm in, enjoy the club, or enjoy the group of people I'm hanging around. It's not the case that you are gonna, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Drinking in moderation is just cope, right? It's just cope, and if you are thinking that that is the strategy that you're going to take going forward, then good luck, because it's not going to work for you. I don't think, anyway. Based on the fact that we are 13 minutes into this video, so you're probably like me, I really don't think it's going to work for you. Those were the four main things. So needing to fit in with my friends, needing to adapt to the social situation, being afraid of what my family thought, and giving myself the cope that I'll just drink in moderation. Those were like the four things that delayed me. And to be honest, the real thing that triggered me was something that I read, actually. So after I came back from holiday, I got back into my reading. I started reading Seneca, actually. My friend put me onto Letters by Seneca. And I got to letter LXXXIII. And there is a passage by Seneca written 2,000 years ago about drunkards, people who are drunk. And I read this and it just stuck with me. And before I read it, because it is long and people are probably gonna click off because I'm not good at reading, essentially, when you look at someone who is drunk, like if you actually look at what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're acting, there is no difference between how a drunk person acts and somebody and how somebody who we would consider insane acts. The only difference between the two is the duration of time that the mental state lasts for. With an insane person, they're like this all the time. With somebody who is drunk, it lasts a couple of hours. But the behavioral characteristics are exactly the same. And When I read that, I decided that it was stupid. Like, I got up on my high chair and I decided it was stupid to drink and I'm gonna stop. And I will read you this passage now. And I understand people are gonna click off because it's just, it's a long passage. But I do urge you, if you are thinking about not drinking alcohol anymore, then I urge you to analyze your handful of reasons as to why you don't want to do it anymore. And if you've got enough, and if you're assessing them, and you've understood the logic that I've given you, and it resonates with you, then I would genuinely advise that you stop drinking. As I said, somebody 6 months now, I've not drunk any alcohol. I've not missed it once. I've not craved it once. I've not needed it once. And I am very happy with my decision, hence why I've made this video. I believe that it will only help your life to stop drinking alcohol. That is genuinely my belief. So without further ado, good luck. And here is the passage by Seneca that I read that kind of triggered me to stop. If you want to arrive at the conclusion that the good man ought not to get drunk, tell people how disgusting it is for a man to pump more into himself than he can hold and not to know the capacity of his own stomach. Tell them of all the things men do, that they would blush out sober, and that drunkenness is nothing but a state of self-induced insanity. Imagine a drunken man's behaviour extended over several days. Would you hesitate to think of him as out of his mind? As it is, the difference is simply one of duration, not degree. Drunkenness inflames and lays bare every vice, removing the reserve that acts as a check on impulses to wrong behaviour. Add to this the drunkard's ignorance of his situation, his indistinct, uncertain speech, his inability to walk straight, and his unsteady eye and swimming head. Now, that was just a small passage from the letter, but I hope you can see, or at least I did, it applies completely to people who are drunk, and even myself when I was drunk. You're drinking more than your stomach can hold, hence you throw up. Your behavior is something that you're ashamed of in the morning. And if you extended that drunken behavior over several days, people wouldn't hesitate to call you insane. People wouldn't hesitate to question what is wrong with you. But for some reason, it's socially acceptable to do on the weekend, every Friday and Saturday night. But hey, if you'd like to read more of that passage, it came from Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. It's just like one of those black books there by Penguin. It is just an exceptional book, but the letter is LXXXIII, 3 X's, 3 I's, and I would genuinely recommend it. It is the reason when I read that, and you don't come to watch these videos or read these books without trying to implement changes into your life. When I read that, I was like, okay, if I've spent my time reading this book, I might as well take the advice, implement it into my life. And that's what I've done. And 6 months down the line, I'm making this video because it's been a great decision. I've not wanted to drink once, and my life has only improved. Financially, I'm less anxious, so mentally. Actually, another thing, before I go, there is a study that alcohol actually negatively impacts your ability to remember information. So if you're a uni student and you're drinking, even if you drink on the weekend, if you've got a test next Thursday, your ability to absorb new information and remember information is significantly depleted. And that comes from Why We Sleep by Matt Walker. So I'm reading these books, and everything's telling me kind of just stop drinking alcohol. So, if you're gonna watch these videos, and if you're gonna take it content, then you should probably listen to the advice that people are saying works for them. So without waffling any further, good luck. And yeah, just try it. And don't half-ass try it, like actually try it. Say, I'm gonna stop drinking on this date. And I promise you, whenever your last drink was, that will be the last drink that you have, because you won't want to go back. Thank you for watching if you're still here. I don't know why you would be, it's 20 minutes in, and I'm not a great speaker yet, but thank you and good luck.